I was 24 when my mom asked me to stop by her place and help set up for her book club. I'd been living on my own for a few years, juggling freelance work and the strange quiet that comes with adulthood, but my mother still found ways to pull me back into the familiar orbit of her life. I didn't mind. Her house smelled like lemon polish and old paperbacks, and there was comfort in knowing exactly where the mugs were kept. When I arrived, the driveway was already half full. I recognized a few cars, women my mom had known for decades, people who'd watched me grow up, scolded me for muddy shoes, slipped me extra cookies when my mother wasn't looking. I carried a box of chairs inside and nearly collided with someone in the hallway. "Oh, sorry," I said automatically. She laughed, a soft, surprised sound. "My fault. I should have been watching where I was going." It was Laura, my mom's friend, since before I was born. I hadn't seen her in years, not properly. In my mind, she still existed as a blur of cardigans and kind eyes, someone who smelled faintly of lavender and always asked about school. But the woman standing in front of me now was different. Not in a dramatic, unrecognizable way, just refined by time. She wore a simple dark green dress, nothing flashy, but it fit her perfectly. Her hair, once perpetually tied back, fell loosely over her shoulders, threaded with silver that caught the light. She looked rested, confident, beautiful in a quiet, self-contained way. For a moment, I forgot how to speak. "Well," she said, smiling at my stunned silence. "You've grown." I laughed, rubbing the back of my neck. "I guess I have. It's good to see you, Laura." "You too," she replied, and there was something curious in the way she said it, as if she were really looking at me for the first time in a long while. We stepped aside to let others pass, and I set the chairs down in the living room. My mom bustled around, directing traffic, completely oblivious to the subtle shift I felt in the air. Laura moved to the kitchen to help with refreshments, and I found myself watching her without meaning to. The way she moved with ease, the way she laughed with the others, her hands expressive, her posture relaxed. At some point, she caught me looking and raised an eyebrow in gentle amusement. I quickly looked away, heat rising to my face. "Get it together," I told myself. "She's just your mom's friend." But the thought didn't land the way it used to. Later, when the others were deep into discussion, voices overlapping, opinions bouncing off one another, Laura stepped out onto the back patio to take a phone call. I followed a few minutes later, needing air. The late afternoon sun painted everything gold, and the hum of cicadas filled the silence. She ended the call as I stepped outside. "Sorry about that," she said. "Work never really leaves you alone, does it?" "I wouldn't know," I replied. "But I hear it's like that." She smiled and leaned against the railing. "What are you up to these days?" I told her about my work, my apartment, the small victories and quiet frustrations of my life. She listened closely, nodding, asking thoughtful questions. It struck me how rarely people truly listened anymore. "And you?" I asked. "How have you been?" She hesitated just a fraction. "Good. Mostly life changes. You adapt." She shrugged lightly. "I'm learning to enjoy my own company." There was a depth in her eyes then, a hint of stories she didn't tell. The kind that come with years of living, loving, and losing. Without thinking, I said it. The words that had been hovering on my tongue since the hallway. "You look beautiful, Laura." The sentence landed between us, fragile and undeniable. I immediately regretted it. Not because I didn't mean it, but because I hadn't thought it through. I rushed to add, sorry, that probably sounded weird. I didn't mean to. She didn't interrupt me. She just watched me, her expression unreadable. For a long second, neither of us spoke. The secret seemed louder. The world narrower. Then she smiled, but not the polite, dismissive smile I expected. It was softer, warmer, and something else I couldn't name. "Thank you," she said quietly. "That means more than you realize." I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Of course, she turned back to the yard, her gaze distant. People stopped saying things like that after a while. Not because they stopped being true, but because you're no longer seen. She glanced at me. "So, thank you for seeing me." The weight of her words settled in my chest. This wasn't a flirtation. It wasn't a joke. It was something honest and raw, and it caught me off guard. "I didn't mean to make things awkward," I said. "You didn't," she replied. "You made things unexpected." We stood there in comfortable silence, the kind that feels earned. When my mom called us back inside, Laura brushed past me, her arm lightly touching mine. It was brief, probably unintentional, but it sent a strange jolt through me all the same. As the evening wound down, I found myself acutely aware of her presence in every room. Our eyes met more often than coincidence would allow. Each time, she offered a small smile, like a secret shared. When it was time for everyone to leave, Laura grabbed her coat and turned to me. "It was really good to see you," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "It really was." She paused, then added, "We should talk again sometime properly." I nodded, unsure what that meant, but certain it meant something. She left and the house felt emptier for it. Later that night, lying in my apartment, I replayed the day over and over. The compliment, her response, the way she'd looked at me, not as a kid, not as an extension of my mother's world, but as someone separate, someone grown. I didn't know what would come of it. Maybe nothing. Maybe just a moment that lingered longer than it should, but I knew one thing for certain. Her response had left me speechless because for the first time, I realized that some lines don't announce themselves when they are crossed. They just quietly disappear. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe to Kind Soul Stories. And also tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your story matters here.